This is 5 Minute Power Platform, and today I'm going to show you how to use a Canvas component for laying out your app according to a responsive grid. And what is a responsive grid? It's a grid of usually invisible columns that are used to segment out your application. And this is what SharePoint has in their guidance. And looking at Google's material design too, you can see here's a grid of 8 columns. Each of these images take up 2 columns. And so they'll expand and contract as the columns, which are tied to the size of the app, expand and contract. Another feature of this is typically that there are breakpoints which will then determine major layout changes based upon the size of the overall size of the app. Like you can see the example here, right? As the app expands, it'll actually gain more columns, and you might have other named breakpoints like these down here that choose whether things hide or show on your app. And so the component that I built is to help make this easier by setting up these columns so that you can tie your layout to them. And so what I'm going to do is just show you how to get started with it. And it's here in GitHub, and the link is in the description. I'm going to download the managed version of it here. So now what I'll do is I'll import the PowerGrid solution. And we'll let the import complete. And then let's build an app on top of it. So I'm going to create a new app. And this will be a tablet layout app. And the first thing we'll do to do a responsive app is we'll come in here into screen size and orientation. And we'll turn off scale to fit. We'll apply that. And let's rename the screen name. These are read by screen readers too. Always a good thing, good habit to get in renaming those with words and spaces. Now we did that solution, but that component's not listed here, our PowerGrid solution. But it's in here because it contains a component library. So it's in this list when we do get more components. And so we're going to import PowerGrid there. And that's going to add it here to our list of components, library components. If we open up library components, we see PowerGrid. So I'm going to click on it once. It's going to add it to our app. And the X and Y are already set to 0, 0, so they're already tied to the top left of our app. So we're going to set the width and height so it expands its full width and full height, no matter what our app looks like. So we'll do app.width, and then we'll also change the height to app.height. And now if we play this, we see that we always have 12 columns, and they're going to fill up the entire width of the app. Now there's some other properties you can tweak on this as well. Like you've got the inner padding, which is the padding between columns, right? So that's this, so we just change, we can make it really big to make it very clear what that is. And then the gutter, which is the space between the outside of the app and the columns itself. So we can have a space between our columns, right? Set that to 20, and we see that there. And of course the columns are just for designing, right? For an app, you would turn those off, and then you just get the full layout as well. You can set the fill color of the columns here. And then the breakpoints here I've defined based upon material design. And so any width from 640 and below is going to be small, from 1024 and below is going to be medium, 1440 is large, and then 1920 and below is extra large. But you can change those, of course. And I'll show you in a sec how we could use those. Let's start by setting an image here that we're going to do is a square that fits 3 columns wide. And so let's insert an image. And then we want to tie this to the top left of this column, right? So we're going to leave the gutter space around it. And so we'll set the X, and we'll set that equal to PowerGrid 1, which is the name of our component. And then we have this layout property that's going to give us access to all of the columns and all that. So this is going to be column 1, and then the left side of it. And we see that bumps in line. And then let's also set the Y to the top of the grid. And so this is PowerGrid 1. So you still have to do a lot of the setting yourself, but the idea is that the math will be centralized so that you can have everything aligned very easily. And so then this is going to be the height of it. The top. Layout dot top. There it is. And then we need to go 3 columns wide. And so we'll set the width equal to PowerGrid 1 dot layout. And then we want the 3rd column, so column 3. And then we'll set it to the right end. And we're off by the amount of the gutter here, or really the X position of this. So let's subtract self.x. And now we have a square, an image that's the width of this. And let's also set the height of it then. To make it square, we're going to set the height equal to the width. So height equals self.width. And let's give this an image so it looks a little better. How about a picture of Will Dorrington to brighten our day? Oh, there he is. And so now when we play this, we can see here that this image is always going to fill up 3 columns. Right? So as we shrink it, right, it's always going to take up that space once it detects the resolution change or the screen set, the app size change. And then let's do a headline over here that's Will's latest tweet. And so put a label over here. Set the size to 50. Let's hook up Twitter here real quick. And then we'll set this text to be the latest tweet that we've got from Will here. And we'll do auto height here. And then what we'll do is we'll set this to take the remaining 9 columns here. And so the first thing we'll do is we'll set the X position to be the left of column 4. So here again, PowerGrid 1, it's the name of our component, .layout, .column 4, .left. And then we'll set the Y position to be same thing, PowerGrid 1, .layout, .top. That bumps it there. And then when you do the right-hand side, we'll do this just like we did with the image itself. So we'll do the width, do PowerGrid 1, layout column 12, .right, minus self.x, minus wherever this thing starts at. And so now we can see here, this will automatically align as this shrink and stay to that right-hand portion of there. And because we've auto height on this label, it's going to then scale and take up more and more space. Now just to show you how some of the breakpoints can be used too, and I've got a more example, in GitHub I have a more sophisticated example. But let me just put a label on here below the image, how about, that shows the current breakpoint. And so let's just move this down here. I'll set the font size to 20, and we're just going to set this to breakpoint. And then we'll this will be PowerGrid 1 dot breakpoint. So it'll be the current breakpoint. And then let's set it to the label. And then in parentheses, we'll put the actual breakpoint setting for that. And then we'll just concatenate in the actual pixel size for that breakpoint. And we'll add in closing parentheses. Let's make this just a little bit bigger. And we'll tie it to 1 gutter length below the image. So we'll set the Y equal to image 1 dot Y plus image 1 dot height plus PowerGrid 1 dot gutter. And then that'll be the gutter amount just below that. And so now as we resize this, we can see that we're at the large, medium, and small. And so we can use those breakpoints as well to determine things. Like we may want to shrink the font or hide the image based upon that. In the example I have in GitHub, we'll show you how to reposition and make decisions based upon those breakpoints. And of course, before we would ship this as an app, we would go in here and we would turn off those columns. And then we don't have to look at the columns, but we could just see the net result of keeping our app aligned to those. So I hope this is useful as you're laying out your apps. Of course, the new layout component is also very, very useful. It doesn't give you quite the grid layout control of that, but it's going to be the way forward for really this type of responsive design. Thanks for watching.